In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, February 17th. UN authorities are calling for $1 billion to fund relief efforts in Türkiye just as South Korea's second contingent of relief support for the country touches ground on this Friday. Meanwhile, the finance ministry says Korea's economy is on road to retreating as consumer prices remain high while exports remain down amid sluggish global demand. Foreign Minister Park Jin calls for efforts to address the potential risks to arise from the use of artificial intelligence in the battlefield at the world's first related forum. The United Nations has made an earnest plea for $1 billion to put in motion a large-scale relief campaign in Türkiye as rescue operations there come to a close, with the death toll standing at above 42,000. Our Isingje starts us off.
The death toll from the earthquakes that struck southern Türkiye and northwestern Syria last week has now surpassed 42,000. As the rescue operation enters its final stages, the death toll has seen a noticeable slowdown. The number of dead from the 11 affected provinces in Türkiye reached over 36,000, while Syria has reported nearly 6,000 deaths. More than 50,000 buildings are also said to have been damaged. Despite it being more than 10 days since the earthquakes, still more miracle stories have been reported. This includes a 17-year-old teenage girl who was rescued in Türkiye on Thursday after being trapped under rubble for 248 hours. However, as days and hours pass and hopes of similar miracles fade, authorities say the focus is now being turned to survivors. While donations and other assistance are pouring into Türkiye, many are still left without enough food, water, or proper shelter. This has resulted in reports of looting in affected areas. Concerns are even higher in northwestern Syria, where assistance is harder to provide due to the political situation in the region. Meanwhile, the United Nations on Thursday launched a 3-month flash appeal for $1 billion for Türkiye. The funding will help assist 5.2 million people and allow aid organizations to swiftly ramp up their operations in areas including food security, protection, education, water, and shelter. Isingje, Arirang News.
Also in Turkey, a strong tremor hit the Hatay province in the southern part of the country on Thursday night, further damaging infrastructure that had already been affected by last Monday's massive earthquake. Now, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, Thursday's tremor measured 5.2 on the Richter scale and occurred at around 9:47 in the evening. Meanwhile, a second contingent of relief personnel from South Korea landed in Adana, also in the southern part of Turkey, on this Friday. The team departed on a military aircraft carrying 21 members, including 10 medical workers. Unlike the first contingent that included emergency rescue personnel, the second contingent, according to Seoul's foreign ministry, was formed upon request from Turkey to focus on recovery and reconstruction. 2 more planes carrying 55 tons of emergency supplies, including tents and blankets, are scheduled to be sent to the region as well. Staying on the international front, U.S. President Joe Biden does not intend to apologize for the shooting down of an alleged Chinese spy balloon, but he does intend to address the matter with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. Our Han Sung-woo has more on Biden's intentions.
U.S. President Joe Biden has said he does not apologize for shooting down earlier this month what Washington has called a high-tech Chinese spy balloon. On Thursday, in his most extensive public remarks on the incident, the president added, however, that he will talk with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the matter.
We're not looking for a new Cold War, but I make no apologies, and we will compete. And we'll responsibly manage that competition so that it doesn't veer into conflict.
He said that particular balloon was used for surveillance, but that the 3 other aerial objects that the U.S. military shot down in the following days were likely not foreign spy crafts.
They tracked 3 unidentified objects, one in Alaska, Canada, and over Lake Huron in the Midwest. I gave the order to take down these 3 objects due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because we could not rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive facilities.
Biden has come under mounting pressure from both the Democratic and Republican parties to share more national intelligence on what he says was an incursion from China.
And we shot it down, sending a clear message. The violation of our sovereignty is unacceptable. We'll act to protect our country, and we did.
It has caused a diplomatic rift with Beijing, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently even canceling a rare visit to China. Beijing has accused Washington of overreacting, claiming that the balloon was a weather balloon that flew astray, and that American balloons had flown over Chinese territory, which the Biden administration denies. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea and the U.S. are poised to hold tabletop exercises as part of broader defense efforts to better respond to a potential nuclear crisis on the Korean peninsula. According to Seoul's defense ministry, the exercises will take place at the Pentagon next Wednesday, and among the participants are Deputy Defense Minister for Policy Ho Tae-gun, U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia Siddharth Mohandas, and Deputy Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Policy Richard Johnson. The planned drill follows an agreement last November to resume, that is, the tabletop exercises to bolster deterrence against North Korea's defiance. The South Korean delegation is also scheduled to visit a naval base in Kings Bay, Georgia, home to nuclear-powered submarines. Over in the Netherlands, the world's first forum on the accountable adoption of artificial intelligence in the military took place this week, with the maiden conference co-hosted by Seoul's foreign ministry. Our defense correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
South Korea aims to play a greater role in making artificial intelligence responsible and effective for global security. Seoul's Foreign Minister Park Jin, in his closing remarks at the Hague Summit on responsible AI in the military domain, stressed the importance of effectively governing the deployment and the use of AI in warfare before it is too late. Co-hosted by the Netherlands and South Korea, the two-day REAIM summit invited government officials, firms, academics and civic groups to explore both ethical and technical questions that arise from using high-tech solutions in armed conflicts. Minister Park said AI development is especially important for Seoul, as it faces North Korea's escalating nuclear and missile threats. He further highlighted South Korea's role in working with like-minded countries to strengthen a global digital order that promotes freedom, solidarity and human rights.
REAIM is a perfect example of how countries like the Netherlands and the Republic of Korea can try to initiate the dialogue on norms setting on emerging challenges that we face on a global level. So two relatively middle power countries working together, trying for the good of the world to try to discuss these kind of issues together. And that is what we can do as responsible middle powers or global pivotal states, like your president mentions that.
Also, as IT powerhouses, experts say South Korea and the Netherlands can lead the way to ensure technology is developed to make the free world safer and more secure from aggressive forces in future warfare.
The critical contribution of AI is shortening the time between detection and response. This is the most important part. And I think we already have the technology to process information at a vast scale. But what's important too is to ensure security of the communication within the battle network where AI processing takes place. And that's the critical part, I believe. So Korea definitely has I would say, an advantage in this field.
The second REAIM summit will take place in South Korea next year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Korea is looking to boost the number of flights to and from China as the COVID-19 situation in the neighboring country appears to be stabilizing. According to Prime Minister Han Duck-soo earlier on this Friday, Korea will expand flights between the two countries to 80 per week from the current 62. He added that number will gradually rise to 100 per week starting next month. And come next week, health authorities here will address the fate of mandatory PCR testings for travelers from China. In its latest assessment, Seoul's finance ministry says the Korean economy is looking ahead to a bumpy road, one that will hinder growth as inflation stays up and exports down. Our ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-sung has details.
Prices rose while exports fell. 2023 kicked off with some pretty grim economic figures, according to the latest economic trends report released on Friday by South Korea's finance ministry. Last month saw inflation above 5% on year for the 9th month in a row. January's inflation is partly seasonal. Rises in energy prices and electricity bills drove up the heating costs during the cold winter. Groceries also came with a heftier price tag, with heavy snow and the steep drop in temperatures affecting agricultural yields. The central bank governor earlier this year forecast that South Korea could continue to see around 5% inflation until February, but price rises will start to stabilize in the coming months and round up to 3.6% for the year overall. Meanwhile, the country saw a trade deficit of more than $10 billion, with January's exports plummeting almost 17% on year. The finance minister explained earlier on Thursday that the trade deficit was mainly due to higher energy prices driving up the energy import costs and slowing demand for semiconductors hitting the country's exports. For the 9th month in a row, the finance ministry has warned that the South Korean economy may be heading towards sluggish growth. With China's reopening not yet having the expected impact, the continued war in Ukraine and monetary tightening policies seen worldwide, uncertainties continue to brew for the global and South Korean economy. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Also, heating bills are becoming a heavier burden on households, and despite government efforts to ease it, pundits say the burden is here to stay for a while. Our Arirang covers their comments and the public's sentiment.
Heating bills have become a bomb. That's what people in South Korea have been saying lately.
My heating bill has more than doubled. I am trying to adapt to life with less heating.
I'm seeing sky-high gas bills now, but we're not able to save money on the bills. We can't even consider raising food prices because then there would be fewer customers.
The average heating cost for apartments last December was 514 won per square meter, or 40 cents, which is almost a 54% increase from a year earlier, according to the Korea Real Estate Board. So the resident of a 30 square meter house is having to pay $31 a month more than a year earlier. What's behind the soaring heating costs? The rise in gas prices. Last year, the government increased gas prices 4 times due to an unstable global energy supply. From last January to October, gas prices jumped 38.4%. Data released by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy shows that the average price of LNG last year was around $34 per million BTU. That's up 128% from the previous year. Adding to this, one expert says rising gas prices were also inevitable to prevent additional deficits for the Korea Gas Corporation.
South Korea imports LNG for the highest price as we heavily rely on Middle Eastern countries. But the country's gas costs for citizens are one of the cheapest in the world, so Korea Gas Corporation saw a deficit of over $7 billion last year and expect to see more.
To cope with the skyrocketing energy costs, the government on Wednesday announced that it has decided to slow down gas rate increases. It also pledged to expand financial aid for low-income households to help pay for their heating with support of up to 590,000 won each, or up to $460. One expert says external factors are too significant to stop gas price increases.
From the war in Ukraine and the US-China trade war, successive shocks have combined to keep uncertainty elevated in the financial market. Foreign currency rates also affect gas prices too, which means high gas prices will remain for a while.
To brace for this, people are also sharing tips on how to save on heating bills. Methods include turning on a humidifier, which can help maintain indoor temperatures as the heat cycles with water vapor. And lowering the temperature instead of setting thermostats to away mode is recommended when you go out. As some experts say, home energy efficiency checkups can also help. Lee Hyun, Arirang News.
Right, and the task of saving energy is also taking place at farms here in the country. Our Arirang highlights the related technology.
This farm is able to carry on with its cherry tomato farming even in sub-zero temperatures. This greenhouse has multi-layered thermal curtains like most other greenhouses, but the ones here are made up of a slightly different material. Typically, these multi-layered thermal curtains are made by layering more than 5 layers of recycled cotton and polyester or synthetic materials like felt. But the main material for this curtain is aerogel. Aerogel is highly porous and comprised mostly of air, but this light and durable material has great insulative properties. Test results show this material is about 15% more energy efficient, while it also repels water, which means it eliminates moisture damage concerns.
The insulation is good, but more importantly, it's useful for controlling moisture and humidity in the winter.
This strawberry farm uses a new method that recycles hot air. It's a technology where the heat from the exhaust gases is captured and the waste heat is used as thermal energy. This helps reduce energy costs by up to a daily average of 16%. While it is advantageous to keep up with and use new energy-saving technologies, maintenance at farming facilities as well as in homes is very important.
Using multi-layered thermal curtain sheets or a layer of cladding and checking for cold air leaks, these are methods that can help reduce energy loss and the burden of heating costs.
The Rural Development Administration plans to further develop energy-saving technology, as well as share related information with farmers to work together to find more efficient solutions. 이은진, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, over in France this April is an exhibition that will showcase the world's oldest metal print book, which was acquired by the first French ambassador to Korea towards the end of the Joseon dynasty. Our Choi Soo-young has more.
Jikji, a Korean Buddhist document, is known to be the oldest preserved book in the world that was printed using moving metallic typefaces. And from April 12 to July 16th, it will be on display to the public for the first time in 50 years. The Nat'l Library of France in Paris announced on Thursday that Jikji will be part of an exhibition about the invention of printing. It's not the first time that Jikji has been on display at the library. In 1973, it was part of the Treasures from the East exhibition. Before that, it was on display at the Paris exposition in the year 1900. Jikji was recognized as being the oldest movable metal type book by UNESCO in 2001 and was included in the organization's Memory of World program. In 1972, Korean librarian and historian Dr. Park Byung-sun discovered that it was 78 years older than the Gutenberg's Bible published in 1455. According to the website Jikji Global, the book was published in 1377 at Heungdeoksa Temple in the city of Cheongju, under its original name, Jikji Simche Yojol, which can be translated to Journey of the Mind in English. The meaning of Jikji is that to understand a person's mind needs to be able to understand Buddha. The Buddhist monk Pagan wrote Jikji in 2 volumes at Seongbulsan Mountain in what is now Chungcheongbuk-do province in 1372, and the temple monks printed it after his death. According to Cheongju Early Printing Museum, towards the end of the Joseon dynasty, the first French ambassador to Korea, Victor Colin de Plancy, acquired the 2nd volume of Jikji for his personal collection. It was sold at the auction to antique collector Henry Vever, and, after he died in 1942, it was donated to the Nat'l Library of France in Paris 10 years later. The Overseas Korean Cultural Heritage Foundation said it had discussed a partnership with the library so the 2 organizations can work together. The foundation helped promote the French translation of Jikji in May last year. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Spain, its parliament has given the green light to a law that makes it easier for people to legally change their gender. The law was given final approval by the Spanish Senate on Thursday local time after passing a vote with 191 in favor and 60 against. The new law means that anyone above the age of 16 can legally change their registered gender without medical supervision. Those above 12 can also do so, but only with special permission. Previously, those wanting to change their legal gender needed an official medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. They were also required to have been on hormonal treatment for 2 years. The new law was part of legislation that bans conversion therapy and makes it easier for those aged 16 and 17 to get abortions. It also introduces paid menstrual leave, the first country in Europe to do so. Meanwhile, Tesla is recalling nearly 363,000 vehicles equipped with its full self-driving function over safety risks. According to the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on Thursday, Tesla's full self-driving beta-assisted software may cause vehicles to act unsafe around intersections. This includes speeding, making false turns, and not stopping. The issue affects vehicles with the software installed or pending installation across the Model S, Model X, Model 3, and Model Y series. Fortunately, Tesla owners won't need to send their cars back, as the electric car manufacturer plans to fix the problem with a free over-the-air software update. Moving on to Hollywood, where U.S. actor Bruce Willis has been diagnosed with dementia. According to a statement by the star's family on Thursday local time, the 67-year-old is suffering from frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. It's an umbrella term for a group of brain disorders known to cause problems with behavior and language. It affects the front and sides of the brain and has no treatment. Willis's family noted that the condition is a progression from his aphasia diagnosis last year, when the star stepped away from acting. Since the news broke, tributes to the actor have been pouring in. Best known for starring in the Die Hard franchise, Willis has also won a Golden Globe Award and 2 Emmys. And finally, tens of thousands of people took to the streets in cities across Germany to celebrate the start of Carnival, or Fastnacht. Known as Germany's wildest party, the 6-day-long festival started on Thursday local time. Revelers wear flamboyant costumes and masks. It's a medieval tradition that started as a way to avoid punishment, as the event is meant to mock the elite. The city of Cologne sees the most people gather, and the biggest events take place, including balls, parties, and even a float parade. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It was a chillier start to the day, but highs are rising fast across Korea, jumping even more than 10 degrees Celsius in some parts of the country, hovering way above the norms. So please beware of big temperature swings and take good care of yourself. Along with the rise in temperatures, the capital region and Chungcheong-do province are having bad dust levels today, and Daegu and Gyeongsang-Pukdo province will see bad levels at night. Now, some parts of the country are having double-digit highs under cloudy skies. And the further south you are, the cloudier the skies are with rain in the forecast from Jeju Island this afternoon. The rain clouds will spread to southern provinces tonight, and by tomorrow afternoon, it's going to rain nationwide. Then mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province will be snowy instead. Temperatures remain higher than norms despite precipitation this weekend. Then there will be a big drop in readings early next week. With that in mind, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
Right, and those are the headlines at this hour, but do stay with us for our panel session coming up right after this break. Thank you for now.